Happy Thursday, my friends. Hope everybody's week continues to rock and roll. We can see we're taking a look at the Epoch Times for some of our headlines today, jumping off from here. But really, there's only one thing that everybody's talking about this morning. Of course, that is Elon Musk and the offer to buy Twitter and unlock its potential for free speech. So a ton of activity on this today. Obviously, something I'm interested in. I think probably a lot of people are very interested in the free speech portion of this, not necessarily sort of the drama of the stock trade and all of that, but the idea that you have a billionaire, somebody worth over $200 billion, who's offering to buy Twitter for cash and just say, we're going to open this thing up for free speech and we're going to get rid of the old way of doing things is pretty incredible. And so I found an awesome thread over on Zero Hedge actually about this. And so let's go to the Epoch Times for a little bit of background, and then we'll see what Zero Hedge has for an update. You can see Elon this morning, it was disclosed, came out 100% of Twitter, around 43 billion, was something that he's offering to buy. Came out, said, I'll give you $54.20 a share. People saying that this is kind of fun and funny because it is $4.20. Of course, Elon, he's been known to hit the doobie from time to time on Joe Rogan's show, and he kind of likes to goof around with some of this stuff. And so he made $4.20, the share offer, filed this letter with the SEC. You can see the PDF came over here, big form document saying, this is how we're going to do all of this stuff. So it's official. There wasn't a letter dated, and, you can read through it. Here it says, signed here by Elon. Let's see if we can zoom this up here so we can see what's going on here. It's Exhibit B. Brett Taylor, chairman of the board. I invested in Twitter as I believe in its potential to be the platform for free speech around the globe. I believe free speech is a societal imperative for a functioning democracy. And it's like, what a breath of fresh air. My goodness, finally, somebody is saying something like this who has the power and the wherewithal to do something about it, like spending $43 billion to buy a social media platform. And you just have to, where is everybody else? There's been a lot of Republicans, a lot of conservatives, people who have talked the big game about free speech. I mean, we hear this all the time, especially from the Republican senators, more or less. How many times have we heard Hawley and Cruz and, everybody else hauling Mark Zuckerberg or the Google guys or everybody in there and saying, well, we really believe in free speech. Do you believe in free speech? And they all just sort of play patty cake with each other, knowing that there is not going to be any free speech at all. So I'm kind of tired of that, as I'm sure many of you are. I happen to live in this space, and so I have to deal with some of the consequences of speaking a little bit too freely, like getting suspended from YouTube and constantly having to tiptoe around walking on eggshells on various platforms. It's very frustrating when we're trying to be useful and helpful, and the conversations that we have, I hope, are helping people sort of untangle and unravel some of these issues, as I am, as we discuss these things in real time. That's how you get a conclusion. You have a dialectic and you come to results. You synthesize an outcome. But you can't do that if you can't talk. And so what Twitter and Facebook and Google and YouTube and all of these platforms have been doing, I think, has been a huge disservice to the whole humankind, the whole world, in addition to their companies. And I think it's ultimately going to be the downfall of their companies when we fast forward the clock, 5, maybe less than that, maybe 5 years. He says, however, since making my investment, I now realize the company will neither thrive nor serve this societal imperative in its current form. Twitter needs to be transformed as a private company. He says, as a result, I'm offering to buy 100% of Twitter for $54.20 a share, a 54% premium over the price the day before I began investing in Twitter, a 38% premium over the day before my investment was publicly announced. My offer is my best and final offer, and if it's not accepted, I would need to reconsider my position as a shareholder, which means he sort of, pulls that 9% out or whatever it is, and then watches the stocks crumble. Says, if it's not accepted, I have to reconsider. Twitter has extraordinary potential. I will unlock it. And I really think that's the answer. I mean, some of these platforms, Twitter has sort of struggled to monetize and make money and be able to sort of grow. It's this like necessary force that exists and everybody uses it, but they've kind of struggled as a company to monetize it. And I think largely it's because of some of this. People are just sort of not investing all of their effort into Twitter because of this. You can see libs of TikTok gone. You saw Jack Posobiec gone, right? And then you saw Trump, sitting president, gone. So how do you, how's your sell your offer that you provide to people, your unique ability as a company, Twitter is to have conversations, right? And talk about these very pressing issues. And if you limit that, you are basically handicapping yourself to some degree to achieve your political ends at the sake of your own company. And so you can see when this happened, I was thinking there's no way they're going to allow this to happen. I mean, even if Elon came in and gave them, $80 a share, would they allow this to happen? Because this is so critical to the entire sort of infrastructure of the double party, sort of mega structure that exists over the country. Yes, we have the Democrats and the Republicans, but do they do anything differently? No, they both need these different institutions like Twitter and Facebook and Amazon and everybody to keep things under control. And if you start rocking the boat a little bit, like it's happening here, you see what happens. Everybody circles the wagon. You get a Trump show up. Everybody says we're going to do everything we can to make sure that he is not allowed back in office. And they all rallied around each other to make it happen. And so I was prognosticating that this may be the same thing that happens here. He also apparently sent a text message, says, as I indicated this weekend, I believe that the company should be private to go through the changes that need to be made. After the past several days of thinking this over, I've decided to acquire the company. I'm going to send an offer tonight. It's going to be public in the morning. Can you talk? Voicemail script. Best and final. I'm not playing a back and forth game. I've moved straight to the end. It's a high price. Your shareholders will love it. If the deal doesn't work, given that I don't have confidence in management, nor do I believe I can drive the necessary change in the public market, I would need to reconsider my position as shareholder. Says this is not a threat. It's simply not a good investment without the changes that need to be made. And those changes won't happen without taking the company private. And so you can see, we're going to take a look at the stocks here in a minute, but you can see that Elon may be losing a significant amount of money by the time he pulls his money out, right, sells his shares. The stock may have already been sort of crumbling. And so he may lose, hundreds of millions of dollars in order to make a point, which is, putting his money where his mouth is. Skin in the game, which is something that Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, and Tom Cotton don't have. They get up there and they talk their mouths all day, but they've got no skin in the game. They are just trying to get people themselves reelected. Those changes, he says, won't happen unless we make this private. My team and advisors are available to chat after you get our letter. There will be more detail in our public filings. After you receive the letter and review the public filings, your team can call my family office with any questions. And, that's an interesting message to get if you're sort of there on the board of Twitter. This is the public document, of course, coming over from the Epoch Times. Now, we know that there were already some developments on this front. I pulled up the Zero Hedge article. Here it is. Twitter shares tumble after Saudi shareholders reject the Musk bid. So this happened at 12 Eastern Time, April 14th. The Saudi Prince Alawid just rejected the offer via Twitter, said this, posted, I don't believe the proposed offer by Elon comes close to the value of Twitter, given its growth prospects. Being one of the largest and long-term shareholders of Twitter, I reject this offer. It says Kingdom Company and I completed our raising ownership, and so they've taken now more than about 5.2% of the company, and so they're rejecting it. And, of course, you can have speculations about why that might be. You might say, well, it's because they really feel like the offer of $54.20 is not enough. Maybe they would take 60 or 65 or 70 or maybe nothing. Maybe they've got all the money in the world. They don't care about that. They care about having a lever on policy. They like the current situation where there is limited free speech. They appreciate, sort of that concept, and they don't want to rock that boat. So Elon coming in here and changing the whole structure, doesn't serve them, maybe. I don't know, right? You might have to ask Prince Alawid. We can see here some serious movements in the stock. And so here is just one clip from Zero Hedge saying it went way up when we started to have some news of some of this activity, and now it's way down again. So Elon was going to be offering $54.20. Looks like at this screenshot, it's at $45.27. Let's see what else we have here. Here's another one showing pretty big gap here between the price. And back over here, we can see some other updates. Piper Sandler said, we're in uncharted territory in the situation, but a counter offer is unlikely. Vital Knowledge says, it seems hard to imagine that the board would accept $54.20 a share, given the stock was at 70. less than a year ago. Bloomberg says there could be a competing bid. We believed any revised offer may not exceed $50 billion, given Twitter's mid to high teens growth. Now, something interesting came about. So Zero Hedge was reporting this on Twitter, said, well, this is awkward. Twitter and their board hired Goldman Sachs to come in and advise them about this price or about this sell. And Goldman says, no, 54.20, that's just too low. Silly gooses. Elon, you got to pick that up a little bit. Goldman, though, according to this document, has a sell rating with $30 price target. So maybe it's not about the money, right? It's not about that because it's more about controlling the narrative. It's the public square for many people. Every single journalist lives on here. Every single politician is living on Twitter, and they know that, and they want to make sure the status quo is not thrown a wrench by a guy named Elon. They said down here in this report, Q4 2021 review, investments continue to fuel multi-year transition. Twitter's valuation is more reflective of the current multi-year investment cycle. We reiterate our sell rating and lower our PT from 36 to 30, reflecting the same valuation multiples looking forward. So dang, if they're valuing it at about 30 in Q4 2021, we're in Q2 through 2022 now. Twitter's made some changes. Dorsey's no longer there. We have a new CEO who has basically, I think, gone the opposite direction of where Twitter should be going. And so do you think their valuation has gone up or down? Well, the markets are saying that it's going down. Elon's involvement seemed to bring it up, but seems like that is only fleeting. Couple other updates. Let's do a quick refresh here, see if there's anything else on the Elon saga, and then we'll jump into the next story. So we'll continue to follow this, but if the other shareholders are not going to be playing ball, then it's not going to stand. Now, there was another update I saw. I forget where this was. Apparently, they're having an all-hands meeting later today because of the employees panicking. Things are melting down over there at Twitter, and they can't possibly live another day if they can't be censoring everybody. So I think they're going to be having a all-hands meeting and try to calm some of those nerves there over at Twitter. So big news of the day, interesting story, and we'll see where it goes. We also are checking in with the president. Joe Biden's got a busy day today. Yesterday, he didn't have too much going on. We saw a press briefing with Psaki in town, and then he got the daily brief that morning. That's it. Light Wednesday, just kind of, hanging out. So he had to ramp up his energy, save some of those batteries for today. Where'd he go? Oh, Joint Base Andrews. What's going on there? He's going to visit an engineering and innovation complex, and he's going to meet with students studying robotics. Great. He's going to talk about rebuilding supply chains and an economic renewal through the Bipartisan Innovation Act, right? And then he's going to go to Greensboro, North Carolina, and then go to Camp David. So, okay, so he's going to go bounce around to school for a day. Outstanding. So that's the president. Nothing really interesting to report there. Let's see what Citizen Free Press has for us. Secret Service is not pleased. Why might this be? Let's see what this story says. Now I'm angry. Outraged over the spin over the first dog bites. What is this? Secret Service agents were outraged last year by the attempt to downplay bite injuries caused by then first dog major. Remember that? President Biden's dog was biting everybody. Even trying to get President Biden to personally pay for a damaged coat, newly released documents show. Oh, wow. They were sending him bills? Oh, man. Secret Service leaders sought to keep the attack details out of the official paperwork, at one point rejecting an agent's excessively detailed account to avoid upsetting the first family after Major bit agents on 8 consecutive days. Well, dogs can sense evil. And, I'm not saying the Secret Service members are evil, but in the White House, a lot of negative energy in there. The dog is probably just freaked out all the time. Who is this old man who keeps drooling all over me? And he's just concerned, poor guy. Says here, White House press secretary acknowledged one biting incident, saying the first family's younger dog, Major, was surprised by an unfamiliar person, reacted in a way that resulted in a minor injury. Well, the March 8 attack was the final attack in an 8-day streak, who categorized it as severe by a colleague. No, I didn't surprise the dog by doing my job. As the press secretary just said, now I'm pissed, said the agent to a coworker. Shaking my head, hope you didn't get hurt too bad. Another message written by an unknown Secret Service. Yeah, so it's like I think it's implying that the Secret Service agents are like dumb idiots who don't know how to communicate with a dog. Now, I don't really know what to think about the Secret Service agents at this moment in time, because apparently they were palling around with Haider Ali and Arian Tahazirzadeh playing in the pool on the 4th of July, drinking beers together, thinking that these two guys are official agents of Department of Homeland Security because their wallpaper on their laptops said DHS on it. So I'm not real sure what to think about the intelligence community at this moment, but hopefully they, are not startling dogs and causing them to bite them, which I doubt they are. But Jen Psaki, of course, would rather blame somebody else than anything remotely connected to the Bidens. Having no time to seek cover from the attack, the agent turned away from the dog as he bit into the right leg. An hour later, President Biden's then chief protective agent, David Cho, wrote in an email, "Major bit one of the agents this morning. Agent's okay, but does have bruising and a puncture. Agent was bitten a second time, unclear when. Photos of the injury. Look at that. Yeah, right through the coat or whatever that is. The wool coat. Major came around the corner. Unidentified Secret Service employee reprimanded the agent. Please submit the language that's been approved. Don't talk unprofessionally here." So, oh wow, we've got some B6 and redactions here. It's sensitive. So they filed, what is this, a FOIA request? Judicial Watch files a Freedom of Information Act request, and then they censor out, I guess, the bite marks, because it's national security issue, I'm guessing is what that is. So, all right, so that's a fun story. Secret Service having interesting things going on over there. New video from James O'Keefe. Check that out. We've got Trump. I have no interest in returning to Twitter. Yeah, Elon Musk. So we saw that. Frank James, we're going to probably cover some of that. Now, the Frank James thing, I'm kind of waiting to see what the charges are, and he's probably getting, formally arraigned and all of that here very shortly, I would imagine. But yeah, they did capture the guy. He's walking out. And, I'm not sure there's much more to this story other than this guy is just a unwell person, a mentally sick person. And there's a lot of evidence to show that, I believe, and there's a lot of opportunities for some of this to be negated. But of course, most of the people in charge of running most things are just grossly incompetent. They would rather spend all their efforts creating new agencies to focus on, I don't know, homegrown domestic violent extremism or something, and then focus on like the Oath Keepers rather than, I guess, focusing on other things that may help people like this sort of, be identified and helped, rather than just thrown right in the garbage time after time after time after time. So I think our justice system is largely broken. I've said that repeatedly. And, this is a situation that is awful and horrendous, but, I'm not sure that it's going to, to be much more interesting other than somebody who's just not well doing an awful thing, which is unfortunately all too common in this country, because a lot of our people in charge are focused on other more useless things. Let's see what Rantingly has. Colleagues worry that Dianne Feinstein is mentally unfit to serve. Dianne Feinstein, of course, a senator out of California. And I think she might be older than Joe Biden. I don't know. And so you put these two together and we're actually, we're in big trouble. So she's 88. Joe Biden's in his 80s. They always expected her to have rigorous preparation, but things are getting a little bit problematic. She repeated the same small talk questions, like asking the lawmaker what matters to voters in their district. No apparent recognition. The two already had that conversation. The episode was so unnerving that the lawmaker, who spoke to the Chronicle on anonymity, began raising concerns to see if some kind of intervention can be done. Worked with her for a long time. 4 senators. A recent interview said her memory is rapidly deteriorating, no longer can fulfill the job duties. Well, that's okay. Nobody cares about that anymore. She should run for president next time. Maybe they'll elect her. The Democrats love that. Yeah, no, it's perfect. She doesn't know where she is. Yeah, we can get her to do whatever she wants. So they just sort of shove her in the White House and then just kind of move her around. Oh, stand here and say this. Don't say anything else. Just read that, for the love of God. Can you just get that done, please, Joe? And then they just move him around. Okay, finally. All right, move him around to the next event. Today he's going to the school to learn about robotics, which is going to be great. And so Senator Feinstein, she's prime candidate, baby. She's going to be in the primary next year, and she's going to be running and probably winning. She's going to fit the Democrats perfectly. So maybe we can have a conversation about, helping people realize that they don't have to continue to elect the same people just because they recognize the name for 35 years. Let's start, thinking about a changing of the guard from time to time. We'll see. Or not. We just let them, sort of go through elder abuse until they drop dead in office. Meanwhile, we all suffer. So great. Justice Department reaches a settlement with far left groups over the Lafayette Square riots. I wonder what that is. Wonder how much money they're going to give them. Let's see here. Eric Lendrum over from American Greatness says Axios is reporting on this. Riots took place. What are the numbers? DOJ says plaintiffs, Black Lives Matter, and individuals have agreed to update their policies. Okay, so I'm not seeing really much more about a settlement there. Let's see what Axios says. Axios, don't want that. Sometimes they will link over to the Justice Department statements, and so that's what this looks like. Okay, here, agencies to implement changes to policies. Not sure that they're getting any money other than just, adjusting some policies so that they can protest more peacefully at the next go-round. So some interesting things there. What else from Rantingly? So the subway individual is going to face court. He's going on terror charges. So we'll probably have to update this. But I want to see sort of what the court documents look like. And we'll go through that in a little bit more detail. All right. And so let's take a look at some comments and stories over from locals. Then we'll check some of the member comments on YouTube. And then we'll wrap it up for the day. We've got here Judicial Watch from Mr. MVP says, Judicial Watch defeats the extreme Democratic gerrymander in Maryland. So that's going to be fun. So a lot of this stuff is going on, even in Arizona here. Our attorney general is starting to sort of address some voting issues that exist here. Thank you for sharing that, Mr. MVP. Saw that. We got that one. We covered that. We're on the same websites, I think, Mr. MVP. Another COVID comment from Mr. MVP. Oh, speech says they euthanize the baby foxes too. Can you believe these people? So we talked about this one yesterday on Headlines. They caught a fox in the area, and then they caught the babies, and then they apparently killed them. Stop that. Oh, I hate that. Stop that. You can see here they caught the foxes. U.S. Capitol Police captured. Breaking news, captured. We've received several reports of aggressive fox encounters on or near the grounds of the Capitol. For your safety, don't approach the foxes. Animal control officers are working to trap and relocate. # breaking captured. That's excellent work there, everybody over there at the Capitol. Oh my gosh. Breaking news. Is that an insurrection? Were they under attack by a little furry friend? What a ridiculous story. So they killed him. Great. All right. So over on locals, Mr. MVP saying Biden's approval numbers are in the toilet. I saw that on Drudge, I think. Yep, here this is. Shock poll. Biden approval crashes down to 33%. 26% of independents approve. 39% backhandling of Ukraine. What has he done for Ukraine? Other than sort of fake posture before this was happening by dragging out Anthony Blinken, John Kirby, and Lloyd Austin. And what did they say to everybody? Well, we're taking this very seriously, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we're going to move a whopping 3,500 troops to support our allies in NATO. You go, wait a minute. In the sentence before that, you just said that Putin was moving 150,000 people. So what are you going to do with your 3,500? And they said a couple of days later, that's a great point. We're going to respond now seriously. That's why we're going to move 8,500 troops over there. And everybody's just going, you're not doing anything. And then, of course, it actually happens as they said it would, to their credit. They're like, yeah, it's going to happen. But then they didn't do anything to respond to it, really. And then they relied on all these sanctions, saying that they're going to sanctions. But the sanctions weren't meant to deter, but it was meant to penalize, which I guess would then create a deterrence after the action has already happened. So it's totally logically inconsistent. They don't have any clue what they're talking about. And so the response then has been, I guess we're just going to give them more money. Here's a $750 million. Here's $1.2 billion. And the list goes on and on. I think Joe Biden is just throwing it out. In fact, didn't he say something yesterday about giving them more money that's not official U.S. policy? It sounds like he is exactly like Dianne Feinstein. Like they're not too far off from one another. She's having conversations multiple times with the same person. Joe Biden is writing the same check multiple times to Zelensky. Nope, somebody take the checkbook away from him. It's not our war. We're not involved in this war, are we? I think we are. President and his approval rating continues to go in the dumps. Real Clear Politics polling average is here. And let's see what they have for us. Yeah, that's pretty bad. 52.3 to 40. We have, Quinnipiac, CNBC, Rasmussen. Not good. Not too good at all. And we also have North Carolina Senate. Let's see. Oh, I don't know what parties these are. Democratic primary. Oh, these are the primaries, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, that's going to be tough for them, right? They're going to get blown out, I think, during the next election for sure. So Grouchy Old Cat Lady's here saying, we're talking about the Elon stuff. And yeah, we talked a lot about that here at the start of the segment. And let's see what else we've got. Yeah, so here's another one from Grouchy Old Cat Lady. Yahoo sharing an article. 251 out of 816 people have been charged or convicted, I guess, taking plea deals. 4 hours. FBI seeking the public's help to identify. They've been playing Where's Waldo for a long time. So this is the original article over from Insider. And yeah, 816 people. Now, I've said this for a long time. This is an absolute joke, okay? Look at these charges. We've already talked about this. Knowingly entering or remaining disruptive conduct, disorderly conduct. Okay, basic ridiculous charges, right? Look, maybe you don't say they're ridiculous, but let's just talk about the severity of these. You can go to a bar in Old Town Scottsdale and be charged with trespassing. Okay, same type of concept. This happens to be at the Capitol building, but it's the same concept, okay? It's a physical person crossing or entering a line that they shouldn't be crossing, right? It's not the crime of the century. My point is, it's the same action. Whether it's the Capitol building, a bar, somebody's residence, it's the same type of physical act. We're not talking about 35 DNA experts to go prove that. They're there or not, right? So it's not a complicated case. You don't need multiple different court proceedings to really get to the bottom of a physical location most of the time. But what they're saying here is that all of this is, tantamount to like the crime of the century. Every single one of these is the crime of the century. That's why they need Capitol Hill police buildings, offices in multiple locations around the country. They need millions of dollars. They need to spend multiple years. It's going to be 4 or 5 years by the time we're done with all of these in order to protect American democracy. And I've explained many times the numbers just don't add up. You can have the city of Scottsdale, which is, a relatively small town comparable to the U.S. Justice Department, and they can process easily 500 or 600 cases a month. It's taking them years to process 813 cases now. Give me a break. Now, some of these are serious, but most of them are not. We have here parading or demonstrating in a Capitol building. Shocking criminal charge. I wonder what type of qualified expert witnesses and who had to write the book in order to, convict this person of that charge. So minor, so benign. They're turning it into the crime of the century. It's not. Charge him if it is. Charge him if it is. And they haven't. Okay, this one's a little bit more serious. We've got an assault. We've got a resisting charge, impeding certain officers. Okay, all of that is a little bit, higher level charge. But still, we're not talking about blood results or analysis or scientific data, DNA analysis. We don't need to bring in somebody to talk about, a person's proprieties in terms of how they like to, do things with other people. There's a lot more complicated cases than any of these, but they're going to turn it into a gigantic beating of the horse for the next several years. All right, and so we'll see what else here. Crouchy Old Cat Lady says, how I try to approach every issue. Right now, it's Ukraine. It's a spear. It's a snake. It's a tree. Oh, it's a snake is the horn or the trunk. Okay. It's a wall. It's a rope. It's a tree. It's a fan. How I try to approach every issue. Right now, it's Ukraine. So what's going on in this one? I don't think I understand this. It's a war crime. It's an airsoft rifle. It's a bunch of dead bodies still. Okay, I see what's going on here. Yeah, so I see. Everybody's ignoring the elephant in the room. Man, I'm a little slow today. It's, my goodness. So I finally got it. Everybody's looking at the elephant in the room, but they're ignoring it. They're saying it's a wall, it's a rope, it's a fan, it's a spear, it's a tree, it's a snake. Yeah, I get it now. Grouchy old cat lady. Vientikis is here, says, needs any more evidence that Anonymous is another NGO working for three-letter agencies. Anonymous leaks Russian soldier data on the Ukraine invasion. So I think Vientikis is implying that Anonymous is not really as authentic or as legitimate as maybe they claim to be. Sort of it's like this organic, naturally evolving group of people who are uniting for the common good. To go sort of be anonymous and fight for justice and transparency and those types of things. Vientikis, I think, is implying maybe that's not the case. And I think here they're saying it's necessary if what is happening in Ukraine doesn't spark necessary change. So basically he's saying that Anonymous is becoming sort of shills for Ukraine. Personal data of 120,000 Russian soldiers was leaked. All soldiers participating in the invasion. Yeah, and I don't know much about Anonymous, to be honest. I think that they have taken political sides before, right? Didn't they want to take out? They were involved in something. I forget what it was, but they had sort of declared, war on something, and I forget what happened with that. But thanks for the share there, V. Another one from Richard Medhurst says that on the Palestinian mother that was killed. So of course, go check out Richard's channel. Let's see what he's talking about here. Apparently, yeah, some stories over from Twitter. Yeah, so thanks for sharing that. Another one from V says, court transcripts reference from the previously posted video. Raleigh County deputies, so it must have been this one down here. Let's see what this one's about. Raleigh County deputies continue to enable the family court search judge in defiance of the Supreme Court. All right, so this looks like a big, meaty topic that we'll have to get to another time, but thanks for the share, V. And a couple others. I posted some links. Yeah, Joey Bondolero shared this one. I got this very same notice from Google. They said, hey, you can't say certain things about the war with Ukraine and Russia. Otherwise, we're going to cancel your ads account. And so more shares, of course, all of those coming over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. This is a very close to the crossing the line. They're on Ukraine's Okay, so here, Biden won't send troops to Ukraine, but it isn't stopping these veterans from helping. So yeah, people are sort of volunteering and going over there and engaging in battle themselves. Now, they're not specifically endorsed by the United States, but they are out there. And Bonnie, I think, is saying, well, where do they cross that line a little bit? How does it become sort of you're an agent of the United States? We're not claiming you, but everybody knows you're on our team. Could be trouble. We'll see. There was one other thing I wanted to make sure I referenced here. This one, yes. Okay, so this is, before we take a look at some of the YouTube comments, I want to make sure we just emphasize what's happening here. So if you're not familiar with this guy, this is Alex Stein, primetime Alex Stein. He's amazing. He's been on Tucker. He's done all sorts of there he is on Tucker, done all sorts of hilarious stuff, okay? He goes in front of these city council meetings, and he just basically rubs their noses in their nonsense. And he's very hilarious, right? He sings songs, he does raps. He was saying, something, war in Ukraine, something, Putin's brain, all of those things. And it's pretty hilarious. Now, what is happening is he's making these city council people and these elected officials look like morons, because many of them are, and they don't know how to handle this. And so what's happening is the social media companies are now sort of, slamming him a bit. So Instagram's removing his video. He says here, he had a speech. Marin County, California refuses to accommodate his species, his lizard daughter, Lizzie. They're not going to accommodate him. So he goes in there and he just starts talking to them. He's like, hey, I've got this, my daughter is openly lizard and has other qualities, and I'd like you to accommodate her, poking fun at them. And so they don't know what to do.
Al, is there anybody online who would like to speak during open time on open space district matters?
Yes, we have Mr. Alex Stein. Please.
Okay, so this is what he does.
Hey, Hey guys, it's a pleasure to be back. But listen, I have some serious issues in Marin County. Once again, my openly gay 8-year-old lizard daughter, Lizzie, is still being persecuted, and she's a trans species. I don't understand why we can't in California be acceptable of trans species, of trans children. Like in this.
Okay, so you get the point. I don't want to, I really want to encourage you to go follow him and go listen to his content originally. But here is something that just absolutely boiled my blood, like infuriated me. I might make a whole video about it. I'm not sure. But basically, no, what did I do? Here we go. So back on this, he retweeted this, or this, he posted this back on April 11th. So a couple days ago. And I want to make sure we get this. He goes to the city of Plano in Texas, and he's going to do his 3-minute speech. Okay. They changed the format of the meeting. So they said, you don't get 3 minutes anymore, because he would go down there just like you see right here.
You're a coward.
He would go down there and do this whole 3-minute, show, and they just didn't know what to do about it. So they changed the minutes from 3 minutes down to 1 minute, and they did it sort of at the last minute, and he is pissed about it, as he should be. And so he talks about the Streisand effect and about blowing this up and everything. So I am going to play this whole thing. He's very angry, so I think maybe there's a content warning in here, but I want to make sure that this reaches as many people as possible so that you can see how kind of disgusting these people are. The city of Plano, I don't know, who's on the board, but I do know the type of people who will change the rules when they don't like what's happening, and they will use their unfair advantage because they're getting taken advantage of. And those people are absolute cowards when they do that type of stuff. Happens very regularly. Oftentimes the bureaucrats hide behind their city councils and their rules and their formats and things like that. And they slap each other on the back after these meetings are over. And it's so hard being a public servant. I'm a great public servant. I do a lot for my society. What do? You approve money being spent, and you move things around and listen to people talk and then sign off on it. You don't do anything. So he is making that known. And here's what happens when they change the rules. Not happy about this.
Thank you. You guys are cowards.
And so somebody, I think he's got a whole movement going on. So somebody else was there before he took the stage. And they're all angry.
Alexander Stein.
Well, listen, I prepared a whole speech, but I just want to say, Mayor Munns, you're a coward. You need to look up the Streisand effect. By you guys limiting free speech, you just proved that we've affected your whole meeting. You guys are such pathetic cowards. You guys are scared of giving people 3 minutes to talk. And I'm the only reason that Plano's even getting any attention. I'm the reason why you guys are trending on Twitter. So you're so dumb, you can't even realize the attention might actually help your campaign. But instead, you're going to push back against it, and we're going to publicly embarrass you, Mayor Munns, worse than you've ever been publicly embarrassed. If there's one skeleton in your closet, I'm going to bring a whole graveyard up here, and I'm going to publicly embarrass each member here, except for Anthony. Anthony's pretty okay, and honestly, Rick's okay too. But I'm telling you, Julie, you're toast. Maria, you're toast. Mark, you're toast. All you guys publicly are going to get embarrassed in this meeting. I don't care if I got 1 minute. I don't care if I got 3 minutes. I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to disgrace the city of Plano, because let me tell you something. I had some respect for it, but our politicians, you guys think when you get elected that all of a sudden we work for you? That's not how it works, bucko. Y'all work for us, Maria. You work for me. That's why you got elected, but you're too dumb to realize that. That's the problem. You guys have two brain cells to rub together, and now you guys are trying to fight fire with fire. You're toast, Mayor Musk. You're toast. You're done. I'm going to publicly embarrass you worse than you've ever been embarrassed in your whole entire life. I hope you haven't had a divorce. I hope nothing. I hope
Your
you got
time
no
is up.
Oh, is it up? I can't hear you, Mayor Musk. I can't hear
Please.
you because you're a coward. You're a coward, Mayor Musk. And I'm coming. I'm going to publicly embarrass every single person in this meeting. You guys have not seen the last of Primetime 99. I'm just telling y'all, you made a big mistake. You guys are fighting fire with fire.
Please.
Big mistake.
Primetime, Alex Stein, number 99 in the house. Now that is so, oh gosh, it feels so good. I'm sort of in a state of zen right now. It's beautiful. Thank you for that, Alex. And of course, you have to go follow this guy. And, if you happen to live in Plano, Texas, and you have an opinion about what these rotten city council people have done by limiting even more free speech, they just say, oh, we're getting embarrassed by people like him. He's calling out their nonsense, right? He calls in, hey, my lizard daughter. These people don't know what to do about it. So because they're so really, sort of deficient mentally, they just change the rules. We can't respond to any of this. And so they just change the rules, and then he has to come out and sort of make adjustments. But he talks about the Streisand effect. When you try to limit speech, other people will pay attention and they'll sort of, amplify it in their own way. And so, if you wanted to go over here and, give this a like, give this a retweet, share, clip this part of this video out. You can use this new feature on YouTube. You can clip this out and just sort of share that video. That would be just amazing because Alex deserves the eyeballs. And I really appreciate the fact that he's just going to, I think, show back up there again and just keep on doing this. I'm inspired. I think that maybe there's something to this. Just kind of calling out the nonsense by being a little bit nonsensical. And what you see is that their brains can't compute because the rules that they've established for themselves are basically illogical. And if you take their rules, apply it to a different set of issues, and then shove that back in their face, they short circuit. They really can't handle it. So it's a lot of fun. Alex Stein, American hero, especially out there in Plano, Texas. And so go please support him and love that channel up and outstanding work. So we'll wrap up with some comments over from YouTube. Let's see what we've got. We've got MJ is here. Let's do a quick here. We got MJ says, thanks, Rob. Well, thank you, MJ. I appreciate you being here. Zulu's here says he was responding to the short on the J6 Capitol Hill riots or protests, I would say. Zulu says, it was, I think this is a sarcastic comment, Zulu, says it was 100% glowies, except the people who didn't do anything wrong. Stay credible, alt-tards. From Zulu. No, I didn't know what a glowy was, to be honest. And then I saw K Bean down here, who's also here, says there were way more than 20 glowies there. And what we see is, is now, let's see what a glowy is. So I went over to the Atlantic and I looked it up. In the aftermath of the January 6th riot, extremists have become obsessed, they say, with this term. And I had not heard this term. I was always, just calling them feds and Ray Epps. But here they're calling them glowies. They say they're worried about these glowies. It's a term far-right groups use to describe people they suspect of being federal law enforcement agents or peddling or prodding them into illegal acts. Terms in widespread use among extremists. Okay. Well, somebody better call the FBI. Maybe they can put their Where's Waldo down. January 6th, one Telegram user made their channel, which was popular with the far right. Private, nameless, faceless glowies are joining. 2 days later, another person suggested that glowies would float stories to the top, talking about Brian Sicknick. Glowies cannot take it down. So apparently that's where it all started. I mean, relatively recently. Glowy derives from the language of hate. It originated with Terry Davis, a computer programmer who had schizophrenia. And he posted some bad stuff on YouTube. All right, so everything's racist, including that word. So, all right, so you can see we've got Zulus here, says it's all glowies. And he's being sarcastic, right? He's saying that's not the case. We have Bull Gator. Bull Gator Team 3 is here, says, we appreciate your extra effort and your exposure of the news. Keep shining the light. Amazing these dim lawyers have not been disbarred for lying and deception on so many levels. I have lost respect for the DOJ, the CIA, the FBI. Time to clean house of all the SES overpaid fools. It's a good comment from Bull Gator. Not too much activity is right. That's from John Arnott. I think he was talking about the Biden schedule, which was basically non-existent yesterday. He sort of was sleepy, I guess. H. May, we got Peas and Butter, was talking about yesterday's headlines show, says the fox in D.C. had rabies, which was confirmed by the news, if you believe the news. This would explain why the fox was aggressively going up to the people and attacking them, and I believe some pets. Rural folks understand that bad animals need to be called. Urban folks are the only ones crying over euthanizing a rabid fox. I'd euthanize a rabid fox on my property. Well, that may be true. That's true. I'm a city boy. I've grown up in sort of Phoenix, Arizona. I don't have random animals walking around, and so I don't have experience with a fox stealing my chickens. You might have a different opinion of foxes. There's fairness to that. I don't know. But I think that what people are sort of identifying there is, the fox is sort of in a place where he shouldn't be. Is it possible to just move the fox to a place where it should be? Like far away somewhere? I don't know. Maybe the answer is no. Maybe it turns into something worse. I really don't know about it. But I don't like dead furry animals. That's my policy. I just typically don't like it unless I'm eating them. Then, got to make sacrifices. Deborah Yunker is here, says, wait, back up on that one. H. May says, if she had pups, she didn't go far to get that rabies. Oops. They have a bigger problem than just one fox. Deborah Yunkers here, says, so if charges cannot even be found for someone impersonating an officer, oh, looks like we got those yesterday. So thank you, everybody, for those member comments. I appreciate your support on YouTube, and I'll do my best to try to stay up to speed with these as they come in as we do these headlines shows. And so I think that is it for us for the day, my friends. I'm trying to think, was there anything else that I wanted to cover? I'm looking at a couple of these stories that I had. I think we covered everything. I have some other activities that I need to attend to today. I am planning on getting 1 or 2 videos released on this channel, but we'll see. I have a couple other meetings that I have to make sure that are addressed appropriately and get my full attention, but I should have some time this afternoon. And so we'll poke around some of the stories, see if any other headlines develop, and then we'll see what comes out later. Otherwise, my friends, I look forward to seeing you on the next one.